My name is Titus Garnett.
And I'm Anthony Washington, here at Mended Men's Conversation.
Welcome to Mended Men's Conversation, life lessons and legacies, where real men have real conversations. In every episode, we dive deep into the struggles, victories, and lessons that shape us as men. From mental health and fatherhood to faith, identity, and purpose. We are breaking the silence and starting the conversations that matter. Between us is over 12 years of professional experience and more than 140 years of combined life experience as fathers, sons, brothers, husbands, friends, and educators. We know that healing starts with an honest dialogue. So let's get real. Let's get ready. Let's grow together. This is Mended Men's Conversation.
We're going to start this conversation off this year, redefining masculinity, what it means to be a man in 2026.
Well, you looking at me like, okay, all right, old man, wait. You go on there and get it going.
Let me see it. Let me hear what you got to say.
Well, Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope everybody had a good holiday season, even those who don't dig holidays and this and that. I just hope you appreciated the time off from the job, all right? And to get away from people for a while. If that's your bag, hey, you run with it. 26, the things I look at New Year's are like this. Everybody expect to go into the new year and they try to have this positive attitude of, oh man, that thing's gonna be better. Resolutions, I'm gonna be this, that, or whatever. Screw resolutions. I don't give a rat's ass about a resolution because sometimes most promises you don't keep them in the first place. My main thing is this: when I go into the new year, I want it to be better than the last one, and I'm gonna do the best I can to make it that way. All right, because there's things that are in you, out of you, people you need to keep, people you need to get rid of, promises you need to stop lying to yourself about. All right, and keeping those things that really truly are important to you. All right, my brother Anthony is getting over the California crux. I don't know what the heck that is. I guess when you work in the crop fields, because none of the immigrants out there, you bound to get a lot of dust in your lungs. Before we start getting into men, for the men, I want you to give me your what's the going to New Year's and stuff like that for you.
Christmas, New Year's. I enjoy being around family. Don't get me wrong there. But in my ways, it's just another day. I got this thing is, if I want to do something for you, why do I have to wait till a certain time of year to do something for you? I might have a feeling to do something for you in end of January. I'm gonna do it. So I'm just not too big on these holidays. Like I said, I enjoy being around family, eating and mingling and all that stuff. But other than that, I love my peace of mind. I love it and I cherish it as much as possible. I'm not going to say I made a New Year's resolution. I just made a promise to myself. I'm going to be more consistent in what I do, because I can get comfortable. When you retired, it's easy. Well, I'm going to just say for me, it's easy for me to just get comfortable and not do shit. When I do get too comfortable, my body tells me, so you better start moving, because if you don't, I'm going to stiffen up on your ass.
Well, hell, that's what going to the bathroom is. Part the moving.
Walking out the house, just taking a little walk, going to the park with the kid, let him run around, going to the gym. I have to stay active for my own peace of mind.
Well, I understand perfectly how you feel, because the older you get more frustrated with the commercialism of it. I had a friend tell me that they don't get into the holidays. Their family don't really like getting into the holidays because they say that, well, Jesus wasn't born on no 25th of December. Actually, Christmas was preceded by a pagan holiday. So I said, well, let me explain something to you. So I don't want to go with all that. I said, wait a minute. Naturally, Jesus wasn't born on no 25th of December. All right, because the calendar back then was a whole lot different than it is right now. So let's not get all caught up on that. It's just a day of celebration. Also, most Christian holidays are preceded by a pagan holiday. Okay, so don't go there. I said I look at it this way. sometimes this time of the year can be very depressing for a lot of people,
It's true.
but also it can bring a certain joy to certain people's hearts who need a reason to be happy.
Smile.
And so I look at it this way. I look at it in the positive way that there are some people that look forward to have a reason to celebrate something. All right. They
Yeah.
celebrate the
True that.
season, they celebrate the religion, they celebrate or whatever. Because if you have a year of depression, I mean, it's tough enough to get through that year. But if you can grab hold of a day, a weekend, 2 weeks of just getting all this off your chest. And to some people, this is the first little bit of a vacation that they get from the
True that.
job. Everybody tends to lighten it up a little bit. All right. So I look at it that way. I'm not going to just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm going to say,
No.
if you can grab for something, grab for it. And if Christmas gives you that little bit of extra to hold on to grab for it, all power to you.
I don't want to knock take somebody else's joy.
Right.
I understand what I like to do, and I do that. I also, on the other hand, I don't want to be nobody else's killjoy. You know,
Right. Right. Right.
I was sitting here looking at this thing, redefining masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to how do I redefine masculinity? Just being honest, being a man. And one of the things I found is that it's okay for me to say I'm wrong. I know it might not happen that often, but in this learning to look at things that you need to do, that I need to do, just to make sure I can bring joy and peace to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's what I'm doing for me, then I don't have an issue of doing that for somebody else. If they don't
Mm-hmm.
want it, I'm cool with that. Because everybody
Mm-hmm.
not always on the same page with you. So, you gotta be understanding of that. So I just look at it as being honest and being as true as you can to yourself. I don't see much difference in it. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you do. How you feel about that? Redefining masculinity. I don't really think it need to be redefined because it is what it is. But
That's yeah, go ahead. That's what I'm thinking about and looking at. I don't think it needs to be redefined because we're going into a new year. I think we need to stabilize the masculinity itself. In other words, there are times when people try to tell you what masculinity is, all right? And a lot of times the vision or what masculinity is, it's a different mentality between men and women. Now we're talking about men, since we're mended men, since you an old man and I'm getting closer to you in your age, but you still getting older.
listen, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be this age. I mean, I experienced a lot of aches and pains, but listen, I ain't complaining about a bit. Not a bit.
Well, see, that's the difference between you and I. And yes, I am slightly maybe a day or two older than you are, but
A couple of years.
my pain and I, maybe a day or two, but my pain and I are one. That where it
Okay.
go, I go, where I go, it go.
Oh, okay.
Right. So
I can.
I
But
just
now,
deal with it. I just deal with it the best I can because it's been coming on for a while. So it's like a baby. It's just been growing in you. And it's a part of life in the first place. So hey, it is what it is.
yeah,
But masculinity, from a man's point of view, we got to look at it from a male point of view. And a lot of times young men have a different, or let's just say some men have a different approach to masculinity depending upon how they were raised and how they
it's
look at it.
also true.
You can get a preacher who will look at masculinity and talk about masculinity in the church in a different way that a pimp looks at masculinity.
It's true.
All right. So the thing is, first of all, it's a male thing. Now, women have a tendency to try to pull their masculinity pants on, but we ain't going to get into that today. I know that conversation to come up another time, but right now we're not going to deal with that. But with the men, the masculinity, sometimes it's difficult to really put a finger on it. At times have to be one of the things about masculinity as a man is take your pride out of it.
Yeah.
Take your pride out of it, take your ego out of it. All right? Go into your self-esteem upon knowing who the hell you are. Don't use your masculinity to impress somebody. And what I mean by that is a lot of times you trying to impress a woman with how much a badass you are, but you can't be a badass 24/7. Sometimes there's a tender part of you, and especially when you're dealing with young females like your little girl. All right. You don't want to badass her all the time, but you want to show her how a man does things. I'll give you an example. When my daughter was young, we used to go out, just her and I. And I say, when you go out with me, I want to show you how a man should treat you. By the way, we go out and we talk, and I show you the respect of how a young lady's supposed to be treated. All right. And sometimes a woman will tell you how a man's supposed to be. No, a man could tell you how a man's supposed to be and how a woman's supposed to be. Let a woman do that. Now, when my
Yeah.
wife at the time and I broke up and I had my son, I would say to him, all right, you going somewhere with me? And he would say, yeah, Dad. I said, and one thing two things, let's say a couple of things I want you to do. He says, what that? What's that? I said, first of all, I want you to keep your mouth shut. You don't say anything. You just listen and you learn. And then afterwards, you ask questions. Don't make statements, ask questions. And I'll tell you why I acted a certain way, even if it was around a woman or a man, if it was business or if it was joking. See how I handle myself in various situations. So, and because sometimes it could be confusing to you. So you need to look and see. And if you got questions, hold on to them and ask me later. And then we can discuss it.
Did he understand where you was coming from?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I would say, I'm going somewhere. Come on, let's go. And he said, well, where are we going? I said, it's none of your concern. I just want you going with me. Let's go. And then he said, well, why you just grab me and jump up and go? I said, because situations may call for you to get up and go. And you may not really, truly know the reasons why, because things happen and you have to respond. And I want you to be able to respond instead of sitting there thinking about what the possibilities could turn into. Because sometimes you have to go on the fly. You have to react on the fly. Like there's some things my brother said, come on, T-Man, let's go. And I would say, no. He said, well, why? I said, because you always get me in shit. you know, I ain't jumping off running with you. Let
Is
me
that
know
enough?
why you want to jump up and run. My son, I said, when I want you to go with me, I'm not going to take you into no trouble. I'm
Mm-mm.
not going to take you into danger. I just teaching you how to react the best you can. And not everything can be handled violent, but you also have to be aware when two men have confrontation, there's always a possibility of physical activity.
So true.
So you got to be aware of that. And nowadays, with some women, there's always a possibility of physical activity. When you teach somebody, all you doing is relaying information and knowledge and hopefully wisdom. Hopefully wisdom. But wisdom is something sometimes people cannot grasp if they don't have the experience. So you teach them how to handle the experience and then hope that wisdom will follow. All
Right.
right. Because it may not follow within 5 minutes. It may take years before you sit back and go, wow, okay, I understand now. All right. But wisdom comes a lot with experience. Now you get an
It does.
old fool, hey, shit, all he's going to teach you is foolish things.
Like a dog chasing his tail.
That's about it. You see the
Yeah.
same thing over and over again, and you still try to grab it.
Mm-hmm. How can I say this? This weekend, I went over to a friend's house, and I know this is and again in a way this might be not the topic we're talking about, but it's just been on my mind, so I got to speak about it.
Hmm.
We went over to a friend's house, and he had the news on YouTube, and they started talking about the brother that's over there in Africa.
Nigeria?
I can't remember
Ni-
the one that took over his country and just like rebuilt his country, kicked the French
uh,
out.
Uganda?
I can't remember the country, but it's in. What I do know is in the west coast of
Okay.
Africa.
Right. That's where the France with more speak French speaking people on more on the West Coast area.
Yeah. He kicked them out and he's
Yeah,
building
okay, go ahead.
homes. He got the people that's in there, he got them building homes. He also teaching them how to be electricians, no rent. Once they build it, the house is
Mhm.
theirs. They can
Yeah.
pass it on down to the son. And I think that's a beautiful thing. They do things you don't hear nothing about that.
No,
Nothing.
you don't. No, you don't. You don't hear nothing positive about us or mainly a lot of people of color. You're not going to hear much about it. Right.
This man, he's doing the right thing by uplifting his people, building
Mhm.
more confidence in them so they can be better human beings and not that distorted image that European Americans have for Africans.
Right.
So to me, that's a sign of redefining masculinity. You know, I'm
Mhm.
not doing this just to show you how strong I am or powerful or how much money I got. I'm doing this because this is what a person should be doing for other people. And to me, that's a sign of redefining masculinity
It's okay,
compared to
go
the
ahead.
Western world.
We let's look at the Western world where we live in. We have to make those changes within the society that
Ourselves.
we're dealing with. Right.
Right.
I a couple of things come into mind for me is like if I was dealing with a woman, all right, and she had boys, I would always had no problems when I met them having conversation with them. Because when you're dealing with a woman that has boys and there's no other men around, they can be a bit protective of their
Yeah.
mother,
True that.
or brothers the way they bit protective of their sisters.
True.
And if I want them to see me show that woman respect, but also showing them respect with their position with that woman. I don't
Right.
change their position with their woman. She does. She tells them, no, this is the man I'm dealing with now. Y'all take a step back. It ain't for me to tell them that. And if she doesn't tell them that over a certain period of time, I can see that my relationship with her will always have that, will turn into a strain. But it doesn't mean I'm going to go in there disrespecting. I'm going to go in there and respect. And they may look at it and say, hey, this guy has always been very respectful to you. Now, mom, if you don't want to deal with him because y'all ain't hitting it, I understand. But he ain't never done anything to upset us or you. All
Hmm.
right. But I find most of the time that person that causes the most trouble is another woman, you know.
Let me get your opinion on this because when you brought up that made me think about my past. I was with this woman. She had boys, and in the house shaving one day, and her oldest son come in the house, and he looked all frustrated. It's about, yo, what's wrong with you? He said, about next door neighbor punched me in the face. What? I said, why? I don't know. I said, y'all grew up together. I said, something ain't right. So I go outside, and they outside. So, I said, man, y'all guys grew up together. I said, what's going on? He sit here and talk about my mom and say things like, like, I said, yo, man, you can't do that. Then his mom came out and said, yeah, I come out here to stop it, but, he disrespect me. I said, yo, I listen. And I told her, I said, yo, man, if you got a problem with his mother, my opinion, I think you should have your mother come and talk to her mother, his mother. You know,
Hmm.
it's not a good thing you gonna sit out here and cuss his mother out. That's a no-no. That's just where I'm coming from. I mean, she could be rude as ever, but I always was taught don't disrespect your elders.
Hmm.
Sometimes you just gotta walk away from them because they can be rude as hell. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so the young brother that hit him, he talking about, yeah, I said, man, all I'm saying is that y'all know each other. I mean, if you wrong, you owe him an apology, man. Just but you don't walk around here holding no grudges and shit. That shit don't make no sense. So he apologized and whatnot, and they kind of squashed it. So the mom come home and she tell me, I get into a fight with them. I go outside next time I know I got busted up in here. I ain't got no army to come fight with me, son. No, I don't do no
Yeah.
shit like that. You know,
Mhm.
I said, your son was wrong. I said he disrespected his mother, and the brother
Mhm.
didn't. and appreciate that. So that's the reason why he popped him. He should have never said that to the boy's mother. If he got a problem with with what the mom said, he should have brought it to you so you can address the mother, not him.
Mhm.
I said, but y'all not gonna get me caught up in no bullshit.
But you felt you had to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like I need to go out there and find out what was going on. But when I found out what's going on, listen, you wrong, apologize to him, man. And drop that
Mhm.
shit. Move on. Only a crazy man gonna walk around here holding grudges, you know. So
Yeah,
they kind of
true.
smoothed it over and whatnot. But the mom, sister that I was seeing, she felt like I should have went out there and did the opposite, put them all in their place.
Right.
No, man. I don't know about you, but there's only one of me, and there's a lot of them.
Sometimes people want you to die for stupidity.
Yes.
They ain't gonna die for stupidity. I had a situation like that with my granddaughter one time. Guy came by, he was really pissed off at her. He was mad as hell. And he come to see her and what's up, man? And he said, well, she's such and such and I want mother, I want mother. I said, hey, cool, man. Don't come to my home. I'm talking to you respectfully. Talk to me respectfully. And he said, okay. I said, calm down. Well, she was in the background going, oh, he ain't shit. Kick his ass, kick his ass. And I said, go in the house. Go in the house. Leave it alone. Leave it to me. So I took him to the side, talked to him. He explained the situation. I said, okay, what you think needed to take care of the situation? He said, such and such. I said, okay, I took care of that such and such. And I said, from now on, a lesson is you don't have to deal with her. Leave her the fuck alone. All right? Don't bother with her because you see what it could end to. And I appreciate you discussing with me, man to man. And you know what? He started saying, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate you talking. Now, the lesson was for him. It wasn't for her because she didn't want to be taught a lesson. The lesson was to him that men can discuss things without somebody coming by doing a drive-by or fighting or shooting up in that day.
Right.
So when it was over, he left, went about his business, and she said, well, why didn't you take up for me? I said, because you was wrong. And I said, in the first place, my responsibility is to keep peace in this home. And you don't understand that. And as a man, I have to do what I have to do to make sure things are done correctly. And you don't, well, a real man said, you don't know nothing about men because you deal with boys, but you don't know how to treat a boy like a man. That's my job. All right. So I make sure that there's peace and take care of the defense of this. But you standing behind me and causing trouble, you're going to get me killed over your stupidity. But I said, I don't care what you think. I do what I got to do.
That is redefining masculinity.
Right.
I'm in a situation where it can go from 0 to 10 in seconds. That's what redefining masculinity is. It's like something I have to do right on the spot.
Yeah, and you have to be logical about, in order to make a decision, you have to understand what the situation is. Now,
Right.
the way he explained this in that situation, she was wrong. Now, she can't handle being wrong, and she was not going to correct it, so I corrected it. What did it cost me? It didn't cost me a life.
Few
It didn't
minutes.
cost me it didn't cost me embarrassment. It didn't cost me a hospital bill either way. So nobody had to die, nobody had to go to hospital, and nobody had to get the police. You see, it was settled, it was ended, boom, that was it. But some people want an outcome that they're not ready to deal with.
They want an
All right.
outcome based on how they feel, not
Right.
reality, but how they
Not
feel.
reality. And they would have created an outcome, even though they were the ones who created the problem. But they weren't ready to solve the problem.
And I
I
don't think
had
they
to
would be
solve.
ready to deal with the outcome of it if it had went that
No,
that direction.
right. It would have went bad. Females don't appreciate what manhood is because they want things in their frame of mind what a man is. But then again, you got males, let me rephrase that. You got males who don't understand manhood because they were never truly trained of the responsibilities and the mental aspects of a man.
That is so true.
And so times we walk away from something don't mean you should stay there and die for stupidity.
That's what this thing is for, is to think, how am I going to deal with this situation? Because
Right.
if I act on how my emotions are, all hell gonna break loose. But if I take a step back and look at the situation, what can we do from here? So
Mhm.
where do we go from this point? Because either we can take it to the streets, or we can think we can
Yeah.
sit here and we can talk about this and find a solution to where we both can live another day. You know, and then if
Right.
we see each other again, you got to think about you want to think about how you deal with certain situations. I mean, I'm not going to deny how I feel, but that also means that I don't always have to act on how I feel, because
Right.
that will get me in some trouble. And I know a lot of times that has got me into some trouble because I felt a certain way and I act on how I felt. And damn, I
Mhm.
regretted that every minute. Once I got a chance to take a step back and look at the situation, I had to tell myself, you fucked up on that one, boss.
Well,
You fucked up on that.
anytime you have a confrontation like that, and what we're talking about with you, there are more than one feeling in there. There's two feelings going on in there. And there's a
Yeah,
great chance that they're opposite. All
pretty
right.
much.
So somebody's going to have to be logical and sit down and try to say, wait a minute, let's come to some type of understanding here. Or let's see how we can solve this without somebody laying bloodied in the street, or this thing could be a continuation forever and ever. Every time I see somebody, then I want to take it out, if not on them, take it out on their family member. This thing will never end. And even
Nah.
though if it's wrong, like this young man here, say we got into it and I did him up. All right, now I got his boys want to come by and deal with me. Now, say somebody got killed, now you got another family member. The family's involved and they want to take care of everything. Right. And especially if it's a situation that can be solved there, then at that moment. So manhood is being able to understand and deal with it on the basis of logic and understanding, and trying to get to a point to where it can be solved. Enough said, done, over. Go about your business. I'll go about mine. We don't have to meet again.
Because every situation is not going to always end peacefully.
No,
But
it's not.
there's a solution that we can, even though you might be still holding on to some negative feelings, let's put this on the table. Give us both a chance to think about this. What is the outcome that we're looking for?
Hmm.
You know, I can go from there. Maybe we just need to put it on the table and we think about it, and we can reconvene the next day. Because
Right.
why I say that is because if I do it like that, we can't come to a conclusion at this moment. We reconvene and come back to this. This will give me an opportunity to reflect on the situation.
Right.
How do I want to handle this? Like I said, what is the outcome I'm looking for? If I'm looking for a peaceful outcome, then I have to also be at peace of mind so I can come to a peaceful outcome. Because I'm
Hmm.
frustrated, I'm going to come out a frustrated outcome. But I believe that's also part of masculinity, learning to adjust to certain situations, and I don't have to always act on because I feel a certain way, or I feel disrespected, or hurt. Like you said, there's always two sides to
Right.
those emotions. I got to allow myself some grace.
Right. 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 So going into the new year, we have to look at some of the situations we dealt with in the past year and
Hmm.
understand, how did we survive it? How did we survive that situation? I don't care if it was physical, financial, social, religious, whatever. How did we survive it? Because there's going to be situations in the coming year. You want to be able to have a track record that works for you.
True that. But that's what it means to, that's when it's time to take that step back. Take a look at the big picture, actually what's going on.
Hmm. Right.
And why am I feeling this certain way? When I get a chance to do something like that, then what happens is that, I start seeing it from a different point of view. I'm no longer
Hmm.
angry. That frustration level has come down to where I can actually see something, other than the color red.
Right.
Don't allow yourself to get caught up in some madness because because she done something to you and made you feel a certain way. How do you gonna handle it? That's the most important
Hmm.
thing. Because what you looking for? People will
We
definitely show you who they are if you allow, if you pay attention.
That's true. But in the process, you showing them who you are. Now, you're not asking them to accept it. You're asking them to understand this is how you're going to approach things. So they'll be
Right.
aware of it for the next round to come. Because usually, if people who initiated situations like that once, it's either not their first time or it's going to happen again. Another thing we have to look at as far as your masculinity goes is to be awareness. Awareness of when this situation is going to go to next level and to the extreme level. You have to be aware it could go that route. How do you deal with that? Now, there are times you may have to go that route with them, especially if they come at you with the intent to harm. And this may sound a little weird, but you have to know the difference between self-defense and death. There's a thin line between self-defense and killing somebody.
Yeah, so
So
true.
you have to know that line, all right? And when you kill somebody, was it appropriate at that time? And all self-defense does not require killing someone. And you have to be aware of that as not just a man, as an adult. How much responsibility are you going to take when you take someone's life?
It's
Now,
true.
it may sound no big deal because the movies and everything make it sound like
Yeah.
you do it because you got to. Yeah, I had to. Did you? What happens in the movie is not the same what happens in the real world. Are you
Man,
going to be around people that take somebody's life? Because you're
that's real.
responsible for it too. You with your boys and you don't know one of your boys that, they in need of money. You stop at a store and they gonna rob the store. You had no idea they robbing the store. And then next thing you know, y'all get stopped. You responsible for what he did or what
Yes,
she
sir.
did. Are you aware of who you hanging with? Can you tell your friends? Can you tell
Look,
your boy?
that remind me of when I was young. We went out, we stole a car, got caught, got locked up.
Uh,
I don't know what it is, but today I'm not jail material. Even though I worked in
uh-huh.
one, I got a chance to see it from both sides of the street. Being behind it because I did something wrong, and being on the other side, it was in my employment. I made a promise to myself. I ain't throwing no bricks at the penitentiary. Nah,
Yeah.
fuck that.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah. It's just because you go to jail don't make you a man. It doesn't
Look,
give you it doesn't give you say, oh man, I did my time in the jail. That gives me rights. That gives me a manly rights, street cred and all that. No, it don't. It just makes your life harder. It makes it
that's right.
harder to survive. It makes it harder to achieve
That's true.
because you're thinking wrong. Ain't no pride of being doing 3 to 5. What kind of pride? I walked out like a man. Well, how else were you gonna walk out? A woman? You walked out as a male. But don't say you walked out as a man, because now once you out, you gotta act like a man and try to survive. Now, how are you gonna survive? As a jail male or as a man in the
It's a
world?
big because
Yeah,
when you come out, you have to. I'm not gonna say everybody go in there is guilty for something, but a lot of times it's not. But
true.
it's a bad stigma on it.
It is. It is.
This country condemns you if you go to jail for one whatever. They're gonna condemn you. They want to condemn you for the rest of your life. I'm saying
Listen.
wrong is wrong, but
Listen, being a black man in this country, they looking for a reason, period. Don't care what it is. They're looking for a reason, all right? They don't give a rat's ass what you went to jail for. It's the idea you was in jail. It doesn't give a rat's ass if you did nothing and you were just with the wrong people at the wrong place at the wrong time. So what? It's on your record. It's on a piece of paper that said, yeah, this nigga's no good. How you going to get around it? Now you really got to have internal strength to get through that. It's tough. You making
it
like
is.
going back to why I grabbed my kid and said, "Come on, you going with me." I want you to learn you got to make decisions on the fly. You ain't got time
But
to sit back and think about it. And if you ain't
but
got
what
no
you done
moral authority, you screwed.
But what you done, you planted a seed. That's all you did. You planted the seed and just continue to water it and let it grow. He has some knowledge of life. He
Hmm.
was taught knowledge of life, and he's using it to his best ability.
Yeah. This time of the year, you get a lot of, or throughout the year, you get a lot of plants They got seed bulbs that blow all over the place, blow seeds all over oak trees and they seeds and flowering plants. They seeds stick to bees that propagate all over the place. But not every seed propagate, but it has to be planted. Every seed. When you just throw people out into the street, hey, who knows who's going to plant it and what they may water it with? Are they going to water it with good or are they going to water it with bad? Remember, energy don't have energy could give good results or bad results. What are you giving somebody? What are you giving them a reason to grow? That young man came out there, me and him could have got into it, and I can say, you little motherfucker, get out of here. Kick your ass. You come back again. Now, does that help him get into the next situation and think positive? Hell no. If I went at him the way my relative want me to go at him, no. She might not have survived the outcome or any bystander. Because there was bystanders around too, who was there listening to how I talked to this man. So these young men had an idea to say, wow, I never thought about it that way. So then they just looked at her and said, yeah, he's right. Maybe we don't need to be bothered with her either, you know?
A stock starts
So I
to go
was
down.
right. So I was affecting 3 people, not 1. But there was 1 person who didn't like the way I did it, and they were not there to pass knowledge. Their energy was negative. I had to give positive energy to males who needed to grow into men. And they was getting it from a man, not from somebody who did not understand males or men at all. You know what I mean? So that's how they turned out. Boy, we getting boy, that hour just about went pretty fast, didn't it?
Yeah, sure did.
Wow. Gee, I was going to talk about my greatness, but I didn't get around to.
When you get started, you get on the roll. But it
Oh,
was a
hey,
good
man.
conversation.
It's no matter how we try to go into something positive, there is always confrontation or something will happen that want to take your energy into another direction. And you have to be aware of that. And sometimes we pass with flying colors and sometimes we fail.
Okay.
But the
Think
idea of it is we try, we keep trying.
you said it's always 2 things, a right and a wrong, a left and a right, a up and a down,
Mhm.
and I got to learn how to manage that, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
balance it
yeah.
so I don't get too much of the highs or too much of the lows. So it's
Hmm.
it ain't gonna always be good all the time, and it ain't gonna always be bad, but they there and
Right,
they supposed to be. That's how we balance
right.
this thing we call life.
Yeah. And the idea that you hear to hear it means that
Mhm.
you have survived it because
You're
you're
looking to
alive
get
to
fed.
hear it.
You hang
It's
around here
time.
long enough, you get a chance to taste some of Titus's good home cooking.
And some of Anthony's store-bought cooking. So we're just
Boy.
all right. Listen, this was a good start for a new year, and
Yes.
this is Mended Men Conversations. And don't be surprised when we go live.
That's right.
And you catch us, and then you be able to call in and add or contradict or however you want it to be in the conversation. We're working on that, and we're getting closer and closer. Before you know it, we will be, and you'll be able to call in and give us your
So,
recipes of life. All
yes.
right.
This
My name
was
is
this
Titus
that's
Garnett.
and I'm Anthony Washington. Mended Men's Conversation. Join the conversation.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Mended Men's Conversation. If something we shared resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Remember, healing is a journey, and you don't have to walk it alone. Stay connected with us, subscribe to the podcast, and join the conversation online. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep building your legacy.